Are you a human being? Are you also a Browns fan? Well, if you said yes to both of those things, and there's a good chance you're probably a little tired of our local Cleveland Browns sports media. Same old thing, day after day, night after night. It's time to hang the cleats up. It's time to pass the torch. If you're looking for something fun, something fresh, something where four people literally smack themselves in the face over and over with hot take after hot take, then my boys at Down with the Browns is where you want to be. It's just good for your soul. Available on Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Twitter. Getting down with the Browns.
And welcome back to another
Bowl.
episode
Super
of
Bowl.
Down with the Browns, baby. How are we feeling? How are we feeling, boys?
Lombardi Trophy.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome so far.
Mac? George Pickens is what?
George Pickens is a liar.
George
Come on,
Pickens is a
man.
liar.
Come on, man. You're really telling me. Now, of course, this is Steelers week, so we gotta bring up what the Pittsburgh Steelers have been doing. They got blown out by San Fran last week, and the big talk is, okay, well, is George Pickens happy where he's at? He's throwing the little tantrums on the sidelines. He's liking comments on Instagram. Oh, I didn't see a comment. Come on.
Yeah, I don't do that Instagram.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
It reminds me of a certain incident.
Oh, yeah. Free George Pickens, baby. Free him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me
That's
of
the
something.
internal fire that's starting in there. Yep.
But yeah, I mean, what a great weekend. What a great week one. Pittsburgh got walked into their own territory right there in the old ketchup packet, whatever it's called now. Just had their jugular kicked in by the 49ers. Brock Purdy and them boys walked in, said, it's going to be a reminiscent of the Dark Knight Returns, baby, or the Dark Knight Rises. They just
Beautiful.
trounced them.
Yeah.
And then the Browns.
The Browns.
Whooped up on them Kentucky River Cats 24-3.
What an absolute shellacking.
Absolutely.
It was such an ugly game too, though. Like I mean, Dave, I don't know how things were looking out in your neck of the woods, but for the 2-3 days prior, up here in Cleveland, it was nothing but just hot. Sunny and 75 up here. We saw little things on the weather report, but everybody was saying, by kickoff it'll be sunny, and then it starts just coming down while
And
we're out
all
there
game
tailgating.
long.
And I'm just thinking to myself, I was like, it's just going to be one of those ugly days, right?
Yeah.
The Browns started out slow. The defense was always there.
Yep.
They didn't. They didn't.
Elite.
Change it all. But I really liked what I saw out of this team. It really seems like they are a different unit this year. Because how many times have you seen the Browns lose the turnover battle but win the game? I mean, they struggled at first, but they figured it out. They adjusted and they finished, which that's something that we haven't seen out of Kevin Stefanski's Browns, right? They do the whole rumor used to be that Kevin Stefanski couldn't figure it out after the 10-play scripted, call sheet, but they figured out how to get everything together on offense, and they finished that game with some ugly weather. So
It was.
I absolutely loved what I saw.
Yeah, they could. I think if the weather was better, they probably could have dropped 40. I think they still could have dropped 40 in that weather had he hit Marquise Brown. Let me tell you, that first go route to Marquise Brown, he was open by 10 yards and he underthrew him. The second time he was open by 6 yards and he underthrew him. I think if he hits both of those shots, that's a different ball game. But it was a shellacking in that weather.
For sure. But go ahead, Jack. Go ahead.
Actually, I was going to bring up a stat. I didn't know if anybody else was going to bring any thoughts up, and I didn't want to interrupt anybody by accident. However, I know the weather did play a factor, but statistically, this was a pretty huge game for the Browns, not only on defense but offense as well. However, for the defensive side, I know Joe Burrow did not have his best game, but he threw for over 30 attempts. I can't remember the exact amount. And only 3 times in the last decade has a quarterback thrown over 30 attempts and had under 100 passing yards.
Yeah.
Christian, you probably remember one of those games because you and I were there. 2014, a man by the name of Andy Dalton had under 100. Remember the game when Sam Darnold said he was seeing ghosts in 2019? That's the other one. And then this past Sunday. So those are the only 3 times in the last decade. Granted, weather was a factor, but that speaks volumes for the improvement of this defense from last year. It's a complete 180.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, that was the stat I wanted to throw out there.
But
well, Jake,
you know,
you're talking about stats. And I'm sorry to cut you off, KFC, but
Go
I
ahead.
totally forget if I don't mention this. But I did see that. Did you see that graphic on ESPN? The 5 quarterbacks that threw for under 3 yards an attempt, and Spurgeon Wynn was one of them.
Yeah.
I
the
did
old
not.
Brownie, Virgin win.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought
I did
that
not.
was the stat that you were going to bring up. But, I mean, to your point, what's up, Summer?
So,
No, but I love your stat too. Your stat's good. I like it.
but
So what were you going to say, KFC?
you know, we do have a special guest here tonight. I didn't mention it when we first got on here because I wanted to make a huge announcement for when he joined up. And he's here in the background right now. It's the greatest sports reporter in all of the world. It's Noah Waskoff.
Noah hates that. You know it.
What's up, Noah?
What's going on? How are you?
What's up? We're doing good. We're doing good.
Good.
So how you feeling after that big Browns W?
It was quite the energy down there. I mean, just wild atmosphere. I think you guys already talked about it a little bit, but that rain, raining on the fans, like, wild.
Everybody was
I mean, it just was like a rain cloud sitting over the stadium the entire game. Because at night on the way back, I mean, there was no rain, there was no water on any of the roads. Like, it was just right over the stadium. So it was quite interesting, but certainly an interesting game too.
Yeah, it was. What's funny is it rained most of the game, and me and Mac, where we had sat originally, was right under like the little I don't know what you call it, overhang. So like we didn't even get hit for like most of the game.
Yeah,
That's
that's
kinda
nice.
sick.
That's nice.
Yeah, that was not us.
For sure. But you know, here at Down with the Browns, we do have a few segments, and starting off the segment portion of this episode, there is a new segment from Mac the Buffalo. Don't know what it's called,
Look at him.
but he's got something cooking. So let's hear it, Mac.
Oh, so
That's cool.
you know, a lot of people tell me that I get fired up. I get a little angry sometimes. So I figured that I would turn that into an actual productive rant. So this is what I like to call the Angry Buffalo Hour. The reason why I say hour is that people that don't like hearing me talk think that I ramble on for hours. So when you really think about it, the 3.5 hour drive to Cincy isn't that far. This is Mac with the Angry Buffalo Hour. It's very hard to be angry after a blowout win versus a division rival. It's even harder to heavily criticize a player when his side of the ball put up 350 yards of total offense, 206, which was on the ground. Of course, in life, we see people bask in success while doing nothing. Edison stole from Tesla. Al Gore claimed he invented the internet. And even I receive attention for women just simply because my dog's cute. But it's another thing to soak in that team's success when you're actively dragging them down like Kenny Pickett drags down the Steelers' offense. Of course, I'm talking about Jed Wills. For some reason, this fourth-year player dodges criticism like Joe Mixon dodges assault charges. He's only 24. His ankle hurts. There's no better replacement left tackle out there. Lies. What does that have anything to do with his unwillingness to give effort on the field? Wills has worse stamina than a guy who has Edie in bed. This week, everyone is talking Jack Conklin being lost for the year to IR. but the voices are quiet as to why. Anybody watching the replay can see another instance of Wills getting blown by in his pass set instead of selling out to make the block. He just leans and puts his body weight on the rusher. Normally, this would result in a sack or the QB escaping the pocket, but this time the defender was pushed right into the knee of Conklin, causing a season-ending injury. Sure, let's talk about the worsened matchup of TJ Watt versus the rookie DeJuan Jones, but Alonzo Highsmith has been crowned by Pittsburgh fans as Jed Wills' daddy for the past 2 years, and the film proves the nickname right. Hopefully, this is Jed's wake-up call, because the only difference between him and a trash can lining up at left tackle is the trash can won't get x-rays after the game in an attempt to excuse its bad play. This is Mac with the Angry Buffalo Hour.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Bro,
you can tell when someone's put some time and
Excuse
effort
my
into something.
projecting, but
that was like that felt like a rage room rant right there.
yeah,
That's what that felt
yeah,
like.
got it.
Do you feel
get
better?
So
that
yeah. So what's
It's like
the next
it's like one of the. I'll go ahead and get the dog of the week, the KFC dog of the week. It can go to none other than Jim Schwartz. You know,
Oh,
guy
my
came
God,
in.
What a great pick.
I mean,
Yeah.
just came in, showed his dominance at play calling from the rip, had pressure on Joe Burrow from the very first snap of the football game, only allowed 3 points this week versus a team that was in the AFC Championship for the past 2 years.
Yep.
The highest paid quarterback was on the other side of the field or on the other side of the ball from this defense. Only allowed 142 total yards. Only allowed 6 first downs in the game. Had 2 sacks and had 13 third down stops. Was 2 for 15 on third down.
Big.
That's called elite play calling right there. So, Jim Schwartz, you are the KFC dog of the week.
Well done. Well done. Great pick. Great pick, Christian.
Yeah, and we got a little trivia. Trivia going on from Jake from Stat Farm.
Now, before I do my trivia, believe it or not, a lot of people will talk about how good Nick Chubb is and all these other players, Garrett. You've got to add Stefanski to that list, Christian, because his play calling Sunday was very phenomenal. There was not a single questionable call. Last year, we would be talking about this play on 3rd and 3, that play on 2nd and 10 or whatever. That was not the case Sunday. Anyways, we'll probably get to that later. But now this is time for your insured trivia question. This is not sponsored by State Farm. And this question's not going to be as hyped up as last week's question. This question's going to be a little more on the depressing side of things.
Oh.
How many wins in the expansion era? We're sticking with the expansion era because the majority of us are fans within the expansion era. How many wins in the expansion era do the Cleveland Browns have at Pittsburgh since '99? How many wins have we had
At
on the road? Yes.
1.
Are you including
this-
the playoff game?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right.
Is
Oh.
it 2?
Um,
It's got to be 2, right? I'm locking in my answer with 2. I don't know if that's right or not. So that's what I'm locking in with. What's everybody else got?
I don't know.
Noah, you want to give it a try, buddy?
It got to be more than 2. I think it's going to be 8 or 9.
That's a little high. Mac, did you make a guess?
I mean, I'd say 3, because I know the playoff win, and I want to say that we got one early on, like before like 2005, and then somewhere between like 2012 and like 2014.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mac is correct. We have had only 3 wins at Pittsburgh since 1999. The first win was our first win was in the very first year of the expansion era, November 14th, when we won 16-15 with Couch. Again, we beat them on Sunday Night Football in 2003 by a score of 33-13. This was Tim Couch's breakout game, essentially. And Dalen McCutcheon ran a huge pick six in that game. And then, of course, our wonderful playoff game, which is easily the greatest game in the expansion era that we have had. So, 2 of those wins came by Tim Couch, but we've had 3 wins. The rest of them have sadly been losses.
Yep. And it's about to be 4 Monday night.
Okay, so I want to say this before we continue. One thing I've noticed over the last few days, in Kevin Stefanski's tenure with the Browns, we've had a lot of firsts since the first time we've won a game on the road week 1, first time we've won at home week 1, first time we've went to the playoffs, the first time we've won a playoff game. Like Kevin Stefanski, as much as we've dogged him, I mean, last year toward the end of the year, I was dogging him. I ain't gonna lie. I was mad. That is not how I wanted the season to turn out. I ain't gonna lie. But, looking back at it, I was wrong. Kevin, I'm sorry. Please forgive me because I see the lot. Kevin is the best coach we have had since before the Browns moved. I'll just say that.
Ooh.
If you want to fight me. Because you ain't
Better
gonna
than
win.
Butch Davis?
Yeah.
Better than Eric Mangini?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Take me to the ring, and I'm walking out of victor because I'm dying on that hill.
I mean, there's only really 2 coaches in the history of this franchise that I can think of that are better than that have a better resume than Kevin Stefanski. One being Paul Brown, and the second being Marty Schottenheimer. So it's and it really I don't know about you guys, but it really seems different this year. And I know we talk about that every single year, but just kind of organizationally top down. I really do think that last year, now while they made this move for Deshaun Watson and they realized that last year more than likely wasn't going to be their year, I do think that at the end of the year, they really looked internally, right? And it almost kind of seemed like a wake-up call because, between the quick turnover on their staff, they immediately went out and they got their guys. And they didn't fool around either, right? I mean, the second that they knew that Bubba Ventrone was available, they went and got that upgrade. It didn't take long for them to hire Jim Schwartz. They did their due diligence with the interviews, but once they had him in the building, it wasn't long before they hired him. And then, even going to Jake's point here with Stefanski's play calling, he didn't get too cute. Now, were there some really cool things that were a little bit different that we haven't seen before?
Yeah.
The Chubb Wildcat that turned into that boot. I mean, that was sick. If it was not, I'm fully convinced, and like how Dave brought it up earlier in the show here, if the weather wasn't what it is, there were two times. Now I want to say that there was a third because Marquise Goodwin was targeted 3 times in the game, but there was 2 times where Stefanski dialed up that deep ball and it was there. And it was open, man.
It was just the timing.
I'm excited.
They'll get that down. They'll get that down. But let's just dig into a week 1 recap. I'll just break down the big headliner stats real quick. The Browns win 24-3 at home versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Watson with 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, 18 carries, 106 yards. Elijah Moore, the leading receiver, with 3 receptions, 43 yards. And Joe Burrow, 14 for 31, 82 yards. Mixon, 13 carries, 56 yards. Jamar Chase, 5 for 39. And total yards, Browns, 305. Bengals, 142.
Shellacking.
6 first downs for the Bengals, 21 for the Browns. So, boys, let's dig in. Noah, we'll start with you. What did you see from the Browns week 1 that impressed you?
I mean, I think the obvious thing and the thing that everyone needs to be talking about is the defense, right? Stemming from right when Jim Schwartz was hired, there were several people that I talked to that raved about just who he is as a person and where he came from. I mean, this is a defensive coordinator who won a Super Bowl. This is a guy who's been a head coach in the league. So he has a ton of experience, and players right off the bat could tell that he had that experience and knew that if they were to just listen to him and take his advice and run and play in this scheme, then they would be successful. And I think that it was almost like super predictable this whole offseason to tell that this defense was going to be the way it was with their three corners, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Martin Emerson, those three guys being able to play man-to-man, allowing Jim Schwartz to send blitzes, a ton of blitzes. I think after the game, Anthony Walker told us that was the most he's ever blitzed in a game in his entire career.
Yeah.
So being able to send 5 guys, 6 guys, and when 2 of them on the line are Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett, someone's going to get home. And allowing those guys on the outside to play one-on-one in man coverage, if you're only giving the quarterback 1.5 to 2 seconds to throw the ball before you're in his face, if that, then it's going to be hard for those receivers to create separation right off the bat. So that defense, I said it before the year started, I still think that defense is going to be able to carry the Browns to wins throughout the season.
Heck yeah. And you called a few of the moves. You called a few of the moves, and you called the Zadarius Smith move.
Yes. Well,
we did not forget about that, Noah. We did not forget about it.
Dude, that was so under the radar, too. Like, nobody expected the Browns to scoop up Zadarius Smith except for Noah.
I was about to say Noah did. So.
Well,
yeah, Noah knows it.
There was that mutual interest from last offseason, too. So that wasn't just something that came out of nowhere. Zadarius has been a fan of Cleveland and what they're doing here. And Myles Garrett obviously loved the idea of play with Myles Garrett. So that was stemming from a while back. But as soon as the Browns were able to make a move like that, they didn't hesitate, and Andrew Berry made that move right away.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Dave, what did you see?
Listen, I saw absolute perfection is what I saw. I was so unbelievably blown away. And I've been down there so many times on that opening game. And when we got down there probably about, I guess it was close to 9. And from what we're used to seeing on a home opener, and I don't know if anybody can comment on this that was down there as well, but it was dead. There was not a lot of – I know the Muni was going, but outside of the Muni, West 6, the Barley House and the street tailgate where I was at, it was dead. And walking into the stadium, we go into the stadium early because I like to see, the warm-ups and the kickers kick in and stuff like that, especially with Dustin Hopkins coming on board. I want to see a couple of those other things. Plus, the weather was crappy. It was just dead. Walking down the stadium, there was just not a big crowd. It was just disheartening. So I don't know if people are just tired of being sold the line of goods and people are just finally fed up with it. But a lot of people who did not decide to go down to that game missed an absolute beautiful specimen of a game. I was lucky enough, and what's up, Manny? And Jordan, I see you. My nephews are on, Jordan, Preston. My mom's watching. I just want to say hey to everybody real quick. I'm old enough as the old man on this show. I was old enough to watch the 85 Bears. I was a big Bears fan growing up. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois. I watched that defense with my own eyes. And I also watched that Browns defense with my own eyes. And let me tell you something. There are massive similarities in those squads. That defense was elite Sunday. It wasn't great. It was elite. That defense can't carry them to a championship. I've said it before a couple weeks ago. I still believe it in my heart now after seeing it. The Browns can compete for the Super Bowl this year. They can go to Las Vegas. I'm telling you, the prices as this season goes on, the odds for the Browns winning the Super Bowl are going to get better, and the prices for those Las Vegas hotels are going to get worse. So if you have extra cash on the side and you're planning on being there for the Browns Super Bowl, get your stuff booked right now in Las Vegas, because with the defense, the way it showed, that was elite 85 Bears defense kind of stuff, and I think they could actually be better than that. I really do. Go look at the stats after a couple weeks of the 85 Bears first couple games versus what we're doing. Joe Burrow is not the highest paid quarterback of all time. He is the highest paid player in the history of the NFL just recently. And what they did to him was just unbelievable. And I think his small hands played a bigger part in that game than everybody likes to admit. I know Joe Burrow made jokes about how he gets to, continue his career in the NFL with his little hands. I'm telling you, his small hands affected him in that weather. Keep an eye on Joe Burrow in detrimental weather, because that ball was not coming out of his hand the right way. It wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the defense is dominant. I like how you predicted that blowout. You're the only person on the pod last week that predicted the blowout.
I felt it in my soul, man.
Your soul's right. I want to get what you think on the money line this week, so I can put money on that.
I told you, 17 plus. I think the Browns win by 17 plus, and I got absolutely scathed by Pittsburgh fans when I tweeted that.
Hey, they can cry. They can cry.
I think it's 17 plus. I think we minimize the impact of T.J. Watt with a couple things. I think we chip on him. I think Nick Chubb in the running game are going to minimize him. I think what me and Mac were talking about earlier, the Browns, they're going to get the ball out a little quicker. I think we are going to minimize the impact of T.J. Watt on this game. I think DeJuan Jones is going to have a good game. Is it going to give up a sack? Probably. I don't think Jonathan Ogden could keep T.J. Watt from getting a sack in a game, probably. The kid's phenomenal. I mean, he's amazing. But I don't think he's going to be as impactful as Steelers fans feel. And I think the Browns blow out the Steelers again this week. And listen, I've been a huge critic of the Browns. I've been a huge critic of Paul DePodesta and Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. When it was deserved, I'll unleash on them. And I have never felt this kind of chemistry and this culture in this team ever.
Yeah.
This is going to be the season. Browns fans, put your seatbelts on. This is the season we have been waiting for our entire lives. All you old fogies out there that, aren't like these young kids, all you old fogies out there that know what I'm talking about, the misery, the walk of shame up that hill after blowout down there.
That hill sucks.
This is going to be the season we have been waiting for our entire lives. Let's go, Browns.
Let's go, baby. So, Mac, let's hear what you got to say about week 1. I mean, we did it in the game together.
Yeah. And I mean, it was, to say it short, the Browns kept it simple, and they did simple really well. I mean, we're talking about, a kicker that was just brought in, a week and a half prior, and he was automatic, made his extra point, made 2 kicks, between what? There was one between 30 and 39, 2 between 40 and 49. You had an offense that just kept it simple, ran the ball, utilized play action well. One of my biggest criticisms of Deshaun Watson last year was he held on to the ball too long. When it wasn't his physical tools, it was just it was up here. And there was a lot of times where I loved his play on Sunday because you could see it. If he didn't know where to go, he would just pull it down and run, or he would throw the ball out of bounds. His decision making on Sunday very much impressed me. And then to go back to the defense, man, how many times in the past 2 years did we talk about Joe Woods not utilizing man coverage? That we had all these athletic corners. But we would just try and play zone, and it just wouldn't work. Well, we brought in Jim Schwartz, and Jim Schwartz loves man coverage. And my goodness, I mean, if you would have told me before Sunday that T. Higgins would have 8 targets and 0 catches, I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I wish somebody would have told me that, so I wouldn't have started him in fantasy.
Oh,
that'd been nice.
Jeez. Yikes.
Yeah, I still won. Anyways, back to what you're saying.
Yeah, but again, they kept it simple, and they did simple really well. And they didn't start out too hot on offense, but they finished this game and they figured it out. And especially, let's be honest, whether you want a dome or not, that lease isn't renewing till 2028. So this Cleveland weather, it's just something that we're gonna have that we're going to have to deal with. And it's something these players are going to have to deal with. And we're going to have these ugly games, right? But to be able to blow out our rival in those nasty weather games is awesome. I loved it. And I think this is like Dave said, I think this is a good thing to come, right? Like a lot of good signs here, especially for the first game of the season. There's so much good stuff to build off of. And just like how we said earlier, there's still some room for improvement. So we got a really good game, but we still haven't gotten the Browns' best game of the season, and I cannot wait for it.
Yeah, for sure. And Jake, what'd you see?
Actually, has Noah went yet? Because I'd like to go last.
Yeah, you're last.
Oh, so Noah has went. Okay, sorry, I was looking at my computer, going through some numbers and stuff. Honestly, my least favorite part of the game was the fact that I wasn't there. I was jealous of all of you guys that were for several reasons. But truthfully, overall, I already mentioned Stefanski's play calling. That was one thing that popped out. The defense, of course, made a 180. We brought that out. Deshaun Watson, he, of course, looked completely different from last year. Mac brought that out. Chubb was Chubb. And truthfully, I know people want to try to make weather as an excuse, but weather was not the reason that our defensive line was in the backfield so much. I don't care what the temperature was, how much rain there was. Our defensive line was getting back there regardless. Everybody, did you guys see some of the plays when Myles Garrett was at like middle linebacker and he looked like he was pretending like to dribble a basketball pre-snap?
That was so high.
Oh my gosh!
Bro. When I saw that, man, I went nuts. Do you know the type of swag you have to fake, like air dribble the ball in an NFL football game?
Yep.
Joe Burrow is trying to check it.
Yeah,
and they couldn't stop it.
1.1 second, he was in there forcing Joe Burrow to come up into that pocket. 1.1 second. That was unbelievable seeing him at defensive tackle.
And there were so many plays where he just knew that Joe Burrow knew, if I don't just get rid of this right now, I'm going to get pummeled. And he just had to throw it to the ground or just throw it away out of bounds. There were a couple of questionable throws that I thought were intentional grounding, but that's another story for another day. Now, I'm not the one that tries to get my hopes up too high too early. I used to do that, and I have learned my lesson on that. But I can say this for sure. Whether or not, technically, we allowed the least amount of yards out of all the teams in the NFL. We allowed 142 total yards against the Cincinnati Bengals, which is the least out of every single one of them. I truly believe this defense, I'll say it like this.
Preach it.
You take right now the top 3 defenses in the National Football League. I truly believe this. Number 1, probably the San Francisco 49ers. Number 2, the Dallas Cowboys. Number 3, the Cleveland Browns. I truly believe that right now. Again, it's week 1, but I think our defense is 3rd in the National Football League right now. And that is without Juwan Thornhill. Who knows what's going to happen with him?
Dude, I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see him. When I saw that get announced that he wasn't playing, I was kind of upset because I wanted to see Juan back there because, watching him in the preseason, watching him through training camp, you just kind of saw that leadership, and I was like, well, I don't know if the secondary is going to take that step back because he's not out there. Because usually, if that guy's doing all that in preseason and he's not there, you might see a little, kind of let down. But, dude, these dudes in the secondary are even more locked down than I thought. MJ Emerson, we might have, legit, diamond in the rough 3rd-round pick. Last year I was real hyped on him, but I was thinking, he was, a good to great. Maybe
I told you
eventually.
He already
No. I wasn't hating. No. I agreed with you, bro. I knew he was good. But dude, this cat, if he keeps grinding the way he's grinding, he can be top 5. You can clip that, cut that, take it to the bank, dude. He could be top 5. Like I'm
Yeah.
not even.
Well, here's
I'm not,
something
like, just shooting it.
to note here for everybody listening at home. Something that I picked up rewatching this game. Ronnie Hickman was in the game early. There was a lot of 3 safety looks with Delpit, McLeod, and Hickman. So now what they're going to do next week is they're going to have Thornhill, Delpit, and McLeod out there. So there's just like with the defensive line, there's going to be a solid rotation in the backfield, and depth on defense is extremely important because when you can make plays with several different guys, the flexibility of moving people around, and that's what's really helped Miles out in this game. For as much crap as we gave Joe Woods last year for not doing enough, like on defense, there was only so many places he could put Myles Garrett, just simply because you move Myles Garrett out of that defensive end spot. The guy lined up behind him on the depth chart is almost a liability sometimes, but you don't have that anymore. So it's going to be really, really great to see Juan Thornhill out there next Monday. I mean, we're going to see this defense at full throttle, but like I said earlier, the Browns' best game this year is yet to come, and we just blew out the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah.
So
who
buckle
were
your seatbelts.
2 years ago. Yeah.
You know what's crazy?
Let's go for a ride.
I don't know if you guys have ever felt this way, but it feels like the Browns have always been like that team that has that, like, they're really good on one side of the ball. Like 1 year will be like phenomenal on the offense, and then kind of like a daisical mid-tier defense. Then the next year it's like crappy offense, great defense, and it's just like vice versa. I feel like this is going to be that year that it finally gets all put together because we have all the right pieces.
Yes,
that's
the difference. It is. Yep.
I think you just said a lot of that too, but
yeah,
I'm hyped.
No doubt.
Anyways, who's one guy that stood out in the week 1 W that you guys were just like jaw dropped, just so hyped? You're like, okay, he's got that dog in him. Who is that one play? We'll start with you, Mac. Player, not player.
Ooh, this is going to sound crazy because if you look at the stat sheet, you look at the stat sheet and you're going to say, what the hell? He didn't do anything. But Marquise Goodwin, I'm telling you, man, he is going to be the game changer to this offense, because the Browns passing attack, and I'm talking about the last time, because I mean you can't even count guys like Travis Benjamin, because and that's why they held on to Anthony Schwartz for so long, right? You can't teach Olympic speed. That's something that's rare, that you only find in some instances. Well, Marquise Goodwin has it, and I'm telling you, man.
Yes, Chris.
We got to just get the ball to him, because he was just torching the secondary, and it almost looks like effortlessly with how he runs, which again makes sense because he is a world-class sprinter, right, at wide receiver. But here's the thing, Browns fans, this one can catch.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that's one. Now, again, granted, nothing on the stat sheet, only 3 targets, and nothing. We're gonna talk about that in a moment. Drew. Hold that thought. But I was just really impressed with the way that Stefanski is scheming to get this guy open, because it's only a matter of time before we just see that big play, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah. Can I add on top of that real quick, Max? For anybody who doesn't know about Marquise Goodwin, if you want to be a fan of his, go back and watch his introductory press conference when he was activated. I don't know if everybody knows, he had blood clots in his lungs. He had a lot of health problems that were keeping him off the field. And if you want to be a Goodwin fan, go watch his press conference and watch the way that young man talks, and you will instantly like Marquise Goodwin. You will pull for him, and you'll see, not only is he going to be an impact player for us on splash plays, hopefully this year, but he is a good quality guy to have in that locker room.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And Jake, who is that one player that stood out to you
Man.
most?
Gosh, you could go all day with this. We can name Chubb, we can name Garrett, we can name a ton more. One player that probably stood out to me, of course, Dustin Hopkins made all of those kicks. If Cade York is in that game, does he make those kicks? Probably not. But I feel like that's the obvious one. But anyways, the one that stood out to me, Zadarius Smith.
Man, great job.
He made Garrett's job 100 times easier. If you had Jadavian Clowney in there, Olivier Vernon in there, any other guy that they've tried to get to help out Myles Garrett would not have been able to be as effective as he was Sunday. And Zadarius Smith did his job. He was there to do what he was supposed to do. The very first play, I thought he was going to throw Joe Burrow on the ground, and he just showed up. So give me Zadarius Smith.
Heck yeah.
Great choice.
DM, who do you got?
Dude, there is like Jake just said and like Max said, there is like 10 to 12 people you could put on this list. But to me, without a doubt, Grant Delpit in that secondary, flashing around like the all-pro safety that he is going to be this year. I mean, he was sticking it on the runs. He was filling gaps. He was covering crossing routes. He was covering outside. He was crossing mid-outs. I mean, he was literally everywhere on that field. Not only did he lead the team in tackles, but I mean, he is showing the leadership, and you could see that they love playing with Grant Delpit. They love being there with him, and he is showing the leadership that is setting himself apart. He is going to be, when it's all said and done, I think Delpit's probably going to be one of our most impactful players on that defense, and that's crazy to say because there's so many impactful players there.
Yeah.
You know, Miles and everybody else. It's just nuts. But Grant Delpit is my personal – I enjoyed watching him the most.
Do you remember a little conversation that we had KFC a couple months ago? Remember
About Grant?
remember that about Grant Delpit, you know?
No,
And, about his coverage skills, and everybody said, "Oh no, he can't play free safety."
Yeah, everybody's like, "No, man, he can't play free safety." Even though most of his snaps last year was in the free safety position.
You remember? Yeah, no,
yeah,
I remember.
Yeah.
He's Ed Reed 2.0.
Yeah, you pointed it out to me, and then I backed you up because talking heads were saying that he wasn't a free safety and he couldn't play free safety, even though at LSU he did play free safety.
Well, did you pay attention to the Good Morning Football in America clip when they were talking about Grant Delpit?
What'd they say?
So Jason McCourty goes through his outstanding DBs for the week, right? So he brings up Grant Delpit. I believe he listed him at either 3 or 4 on his top 5 list. Listed him as a free safety.
Huh.
How about that?
We love it. We love it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'm gonna give you guys my player that stood out to me the most. It might be just the easy pick, but it is Deshaun Watson. To see him play the way he did, and Jake,
That's fair.
like you said, you don't like to hear the weather excuse. I think some of that it made the ball early on. I think it made it a little harder to grip, so I think that's why he kind of was underthrowing it. But if you guys did not hear, he said that he had to get an IV at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a lot of his struggles the first half. So once he got that IV, he came back in the second half, and he looked a lot sharper in that second half. Stuff was moving better. If you notice, we only scored 10 in the first half, and we scored 14 in the second half. So, I think
that was crazy when I heard he had an IV at halftime. That was,
I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, because he said his whole body was cramping.
Yeah.
But, first game this year, home opener to go against the Bengals, big rival, put up I want to say it was a little bit over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the way he ran the ball, that's something we've not had in Cleveland. It was just so nice to see because it wasn't like he was just like he just could run. He could run. Like he was running and made big plays, like multiple first downs, like that big 3rd down conversion early on in the game where he walked up and went, a little under his nose point for the first down on Dax Hill. Loved that. And then the touchdown to end the first half. Like, it's just so good to have a quarterback that's so dynamic.
Yeah.
So that's what stood out to me.
And he runs with such power too. That's the one part of his game I didn't know existed was he has power. Like, it is hard to bring him down. When you see him dragging defensive tackles, you know that there's something special there with his running game. It ain't just flash and speed.
Yeah. And we can't just talk about the Bengals all week. I mean, as much as they like to claim that was our Super Bowl, our eyes are no longer on them. Because we own them. We're on to Pittsburgh.
It's Steelers week, baby.
It's
Steelers week.
Yep.
Oh God! As much as it's great to beat the Bengals, I want to just cram it down Pittsburgh's throat. I'm tired of hearing about Kenny Pickett. They're still talking about it.
Baker.
The dude got blown out. Okay, blown out by San Francisco. But yet they're still talking about Kenny Pickett, about how he's going to come back. Dude's never thrown for 2 touchdowns in a game in his entire career, and it's been 14 games that he's just going to magically turn it around against which, call me crazy, but I think that between us and San Fran, pretty similar skill-wise defensively, right?
Yeah.
So –
but offensively, though, that's where it's a huge difference. I mean, you go look at the stats from last week. The 49ers freaking dominated them. And Najee Harris ran the ball 6 times. 31 yards.
He looks slow. He's not. His cuts don't look as crisp. He looks slow.
They just don't look good. Like, I think that loss week 1 is one of them losses. Like, I want to say it's like the year that we lost to the Titans, the one that just kind of sets up the whole season for failure. Like that week 1 game. That just.
I mean, it's pretty similar. A lot of off-season hype. Couple of neat additions.
Year 2 of
get blown out at home. A lot of turnovers by a second-year QB. It does sound a little familiar, doesn't it? Huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a Diet Baker Mayfield at quarterback.
A Diet Baker.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty generous if you want to ask me. Now I'd love for somebody, to actually debate me on this. But I rewatched a good chunk. I would say probably the first quarter of that game, and Pickett's progressions. I mean, he looks like me trying to read the newspaper after 8 beers, going through his progressions. Man, it's extremely slow, and he's not throwing with any anticipation. Man,
he's like me in Madden, isn't he, Christian? He's like me in Madden. I'm a 2-read. I'm a 2-read quarterback in Madden, dude. If I can read 2 routes and that is it, then I'm sacked. That's Pickett.
Like we said earlier in the year, this is before the season even started. I don't know if you remember this, Mac, but I compared the DTR stats in college to Kenny Pickett's stats. And still today, I would still take DTR over Kenny Pickett right now. Right now. People can hate on me. You can throw my name in the dirt. I don't care. I'm standing on that right there because Kenny Pickett is not a good quarterback. I mean, obviously, to be in the NFL, you're going to have some talent. I'm not knocking the guy there. But to act like this guy is on a level with, like, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, like these cats are saying, like he's going to be top 10. No. He's going to be top 10 waiting for a job at Walmart here in about 3 years if he keeps up the way he's playing.
Oh, man. Clip that clip right there.
They all misunderstood what was actually going on last year, right? Because they had their down spell, right?
So Summer just said, got to be them receiver gloves. Did you guys hear about what happened the other day with Kenny Pickett? So he went into the local sporting Hibbett's, like the Hibbett Sports, to go get some receiver gloves. And he snatched the last pair of kids' receiver gloves. And the kid that went in after him cried. Kenny Pickett said, "I need these for Sunday, kid," and pushed him.
I wish somebody would have filmed that. I really wish somebody would have filmed that. I don't believe it.
That
I wish
doesn't
somebody
sound
would have
real.
filmed it. Yeah.
Oh no. But what is real is they were like
That ain't
Pittsburgh
right.
fans think that Kenny Pickett was the reason why they turned their season around last year, because not everybody remembers, but I do. Steelers were in the AFC North basement for several weeks, and then all of a sudden turned it around. They had this great spurt, right?
Yeah.
They thought it was because of the change at quarterback. No, it's because TJ Watt came back. They're winning all these games by, less than a field goal, and they're scoring less than, 21 points per game. It's not because you're a quarterback, man. It's because your best defensive player came back.
Mhm.
But here's the thing.
Mhm.
So Cam Hayward's out this week,
Mhm.
and it's going to be
Their
real
emotional
interesting
leader.
to see where, because I looked through it.
Oh
because
yeah, that's not true, guys. I was
my immediate thought
that's a good joke, by the way.
Good. Yeah.
was, okay, so Cam Hayward's out. What the hell does this Steelers defense look like without him? I tried digging through. Since he was drafted in 2012, he only missed 11 games. And the last game that he missed was the last game of the season in 2020, and that was due to his coach just sitting him. So it's just like you can't even pull these stats and try to make sense of it, because it was football that was played a decade ago, right? But TJ Watt, for the first time in his career, is going to be playing without a guy that makes his job easier. The reason why TJ Watt is one of those edge defenders that never gets double teamed is because of Cam Hayward. The reason why he doesn't have to worry about contain and QBs stepping up in the pocket is because of Cam Hayward. And he no longer has that. So it's going to be interesting. Now, with that being said, this is the bear front, right? This is the 5-2. And my dog's pulling my phone down. Thank you for that, Buff. But this is the bear front, right? Notice 3 defensive tackles inside the C gaps, inside those offensive tackles there. So there's going to be a lot of beef. And, all right, bud. Okay. So there's going to be a lot of beef on the interior of that D line. So it's going to be a tall order, no matter who's in there. Between Bitonio, Ethan Poshik, and Wyatt Teller. So it's going to be real interesting to see. And another matchup that I talked about earlier in my segment. Now, was the segment a little bit harsh? Was I a little bit upset? Yes. But at the end of the day, in the past 4 games, Alonzo Highsmith versus Jed Wills has 11 pressures and 6 sacks. Why is nobody talking about that? Everybody, and I have fan. I'm originally from Warren, like the Youngstown area. So naturally, I know a good chunk of Steelers fans. Hell, I got some in the family. God bless them, but they were led astray. Anyway, they have told me they love that matchup, Alonzo Highsmith on Jed Wills, and I don't blame them, because it's scary. I mean, we're all talking about DeJuan Jones on TJ Watt and like how we're going to chip this guy and how we're going to get the ball out early. But what the hell are we going to do on the other side? Because what San Fran did against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense is they ran away from TJ Watt the whole game. They just decided, hey, we're just going to run the ball on the left side and just do everything that we can to just completely just take him out of the game. Well, Jed, better buckle your chin strap, buddy, because it's going to be a long game. And I hope that today, like that last week was a wake-up call. I really hope that he kind of sat down and said, hey, I really didn't give it my best effort. It's not like I hurt my teammate on purpose, but due to me not finishing the play, our starting right tackle got his knee blown out. And I mean, that's just the truth. You could go back and throw the replay on. I mean, he gets blown by, he leans his body weight onto him, and instead of selling out for the block, he just
pushes him into Conklin's knee and correct. Yep.
So that's what I'm concerned about, because and I'm sorry for talking too long here, guys. But
Well, you
Kevin
did say the angry
Stefanski
Buffalo
is
hour, so
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Stefanski's 0-4 against TJ Watt, and that's for a reason. You know,
yeah.
Yeah.
but now with that being said, he has something that he hasn't had before, which is an extension of the run game. He has an ability to get the ball out to several playmakers, whether that be Marquise Goodwin, whether that be Elijah Moore, Nick Chubb's more heavily involved in the passing game now. So he does have the tools to get it done, but even with Cam Hayward out, it's still going to be a task for this Browns offense. And that's going to be the matchup because I know the defense is going to get it done. That's no problem. I know Jim Schwartz and his boys are going to be ready to play. Okay.
Yeah.
They're going to get that dog bone chain out and they're going to be barking, right?
Yep.
They'll be barking.
Yep. It's going to be.
Can I get a bark real quick, boys? Can we bark for the people? What's that? Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, you know what I can't wait to see is I want to see Wyatt Teller do one of his 25-yard down the field pancake blocks on Minka.
That would be funny.
Are you ready?
Well,
Are you guys ready to
Did
see
you not see
Chubb
that?
saw him
And I know
again?
Whoop said it earlier in the chats. Did you not see Wyatt Teller pancake
dude.
15 yards down the field?
Beautiful.
That was nuts.
Incredible.
Yeah.
He drove him 15 yards down the field and then pancaked him.
Was that
And
Jermaine
just
Pratt?
sat on him.
It was Pratt. It was
That was
Pratt.
Pratt.
Yeah, it was Pratt. Yeah.
I just took him for a ride.
What
Said,
a
"Hey, buddy."
what a
He said-
play. That's an
He
epic
said,
play.
"Buckle up, boys. We're going for a ride."
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? Those guys get paid no matter what the outcome of that game, you guys. And those are the kind of effort plays that you can tell with your own eyes. You can tell that players are passionate and excited to be there. Players who aren't excited and don't feel confident about their team's ability to win don't drive a middle linebacker 15 yards down the field and pancake them. They don't. They do just enough so they don't get called out in the film room the next day, and they can still get their game check. So these are just more examples of how these guys are really fired up and bought in to what's going on in there right now.
So KFC, I know you were going to mention it, but just for the people at home, can you talk about Minka Fitzpatrick and his dilemma every time he plays the Browns?
Buddy, let me tell you, brother.
He has a
Let me
daddy
tell
on the
you,
Browns.
brother. He has a daddy, and his name, Nicholas Jamal Chubb. Listen, I already know there's going to be at least 2 plays where Nick Chubb puts his big, meaty paws on that man's chest and throws him through the center of the universe like he does every year. It's going to happen at least 1 or 2 times, and it's going to be amazing. Oh, he grabs him right here mid-chest, throws him just into oblivion.
The greatest tweet of all time was Minka Fitzpatrick on Father's Day saying, "I'd like to say Happy Father's Day to my dad, Nick Chubb." That was the greatest of all time, dude. That was awesome.
Jake, let's hear it. Your insight for the Monday night game.
Well, all of you guys have brought out a lot of really good points. And we know that San Francisco beat the Steelers 37-7. I'm pretty sure that was the score. And people will probably try to say, well, we're not San Francisco. Cleveland's not San Francisco. And, of course, San Francisco does have the best defense in the NFL right now, I do believe. But I also believe Cleveland's not far behind. The gap between our defensive line and San Francisco's defensive line is not that great of a gap. I think it was, how many times did Pickett get sacked against the 49ers? Maybe 5. I can't remember. He got sacked.
Yeah.
He got sacked a lot. We could very possibly do that same thing. I do believe, though, that Pittsburgh's offensive line is better than Cincinnati's offensive line. So we're not going to see as many Cleveland players in the backfield than what we did this past Sunday. But I do think it'll be pretty effective. I do feel like, and Dave, I might need you to encourage me on this one, buddy, like make me feel better. But I think it's going to be pretty low scoring on both ends. I don't think it's going to be a flashy game. I think we will stop Pittsburgh's offense pretty easily. I don't think it's going to be, they're going to score a lot. They'll probably score like 10-17, maybe 21. But they're going to do everything they can to stop us from scoring as well. Like Mac was saying, DeJuan Jones is going to have a pretty tough time with TJ Watt. I hate to say it, Jedrick Wills, unless he gets his act together, he may struggle as well. So Deshaun may struggle a little bit in the Monday night game because of that pressure. But that being said, so if we're doing score predictions, I still think Cleveland wins, but I think it'll be something like 17-10, 20-10, something like that.
Okay. Solid. See, okay, I'm going to go over the injury report for this game. So, people on the injury report as of today is September 13th. Looks like the Browns have Juan Thornhill. He's questionable where he was out last week, but I believe he will play this Monday versus Pittsburgh. Jack Conklin is on IR now with a torn ACL and MCL. Pittsburgh has DeMarvin Leal, questionable. This is one of them names, Mac, that you're going to laugh at me for trying to pronounce. Chukwuemeka Okafor. He is questionable. Cam Hayward out. Pat Freiermuth has been questionable, so I think he'll actually play though. And then
I think so
Johnson
too.
Is out as well. So, yeah, that's going to be a big hit because really they've got
it's George Pickens and nobody.
They got what's his face, Robert Woods. Is it Robert Woods? Is that who it is?
No, Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
Allen Robinson. See,
a 50-year-old Allen Robinson.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that this team still has a lot to prove. I think they're getting a little bit of credit in the media. But if you think about it, all you heard in the media was just how bad Cincinnati was. It wasn't how good Cleveland was. It was, Burrow's still hurt. Burrow didn't practice. Burrow didn't play in the preseason. The O-line was bad. It's not, no, the Browns just physically dominated them. Just out physicality them. That came out so bad. But, it's just like they came out, they lifted weights, they're stronger, they showed them who had the bigger balls, and that's what happened on Sunday. And I believe come Monday, these boys are still going to be fired up in them dope uniform and that white helmet. And
that's right.
Yeah, and I think that the
all whites, yep.
And I think the weather's going to be a little bit better come Monday. And I think that the Browns are going to try to air it out on that secondary. And I think Watson's going to try to, he's going to try to show himself out there, He's going to be like, okay, I'm going to show you guys what I can do again. He's going to show that he's still got that dog in him. A lot of people have been throwing crap on his name. All the stuff that happened last year, if you want to dog him for that, go ahead. But I think that he'll come in. He's going to tune out all the noise because, on the road, they're going to be doing their chants against Watson. He's going to tune them out. He's going to go in there and throw for 3 touchdowns and 295 yards with a score of 30-17.
There you go.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
Look at that. Look at that smile on his face, too. And he takes a sip. That's a power move right there.
Oh, you want to even see a bigger power move?
Yeah.
Whoa. Is that legal?
Yeah.
So don't forget, everybody at home, comment, tweet at us your score predictions. If you get it on the money, we'll send you something. But we don't play close wins. You either got to get it exactly right or no dice.
Yep.
Now, for me, I do think, again, Cameron Hayward's out, but the Steelers defense, you can't really ever count them out. And it's just how they've been built. They still got TJ Watt. They still have Minka Fitzpatrick. They still have Alonzo Highsmith. I think it's going to be one of those relatively close games with the Browns pulling away at the end. I would say probably 24-10. But I really think a majority of the scoring is going to happen probably in the third quarter here. So again, 24-10 Browns.
Sure.
Heck yeah. What you, DM?
Yeah. So listen, that's the thing is we all got to get like this because we're all there's anxiety over a Steelers game. There always is. We just don't feel good about it. They've owned us for 50 straight years. It feels like this is after this game. I hope you guys can all get on board with me with how absolutely destructive we are. My prediction for the score is going to be 31-10. I think their touchdown is going to be garbage time. I think it's going to be 31-3 by the third quarter. And
Yeah.
This is we need to soak this in. We need to enjoy every minute of this. Every bone in my body wanted to say this is going to be a slugfest, and like Max said, the Browns are going to stretch their legs at the end of the game, pull it out, maybe win by 10, 14 points. I don't think it's close from the moment go. I think initially they come out, they hit the Steelers in the mouth so hard, and I think the Steelers fold. I think there's turmoil inside that locker room. I think Mike Tomlin has never been more criticized and ridiculed based off of what I'm seeing than he is right now, which I can't believe, because personally, I think Mike Tomlin's a great leader. He's a great coach. He says some crazy stuff sometimes, but he has done fantastic things with mediocre players for years and years and years, and he needs credit for that. But I think there's turmoil in that locker room. I think genuine turmoil. I think George Pickens is just the smoke of the fire that's really burning in there. And if just like I talked about with the Buckeyes, with McCord, if he can't get that ball to those stud receivers, those receivers will cause havoc in a locker room. And I think George Pickens and the Steelers are going to be the same way. I really feel like it will be. I will be completely shocked if it's not. Hopefully, after this blowout win, you guys will all come on board with the train that's going down right now and be a believer, because I don't think it's going to be close, and I think it's going to be over pretty early. I think people are going to be switching to other games by halftime. That's my prediction.
Heck yeah.
Hey, can I ask you guys one favor? My nephew just posted something on there, and I thought it was kind of a cool question. If the Browns didn't exist, who would your favorite teams be? Like, so who's your number two guys?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Easy.
Like, mine would be the Bears.
Probably the Titans.
The Titans.
Yeah.
Ooh, so you're going to have a little bit of a – week 3 is going to be a little bit of a for you.
No, I would just do that just because Nashville's only like 4 hours away.
Oh, yeah. Okay. What about you, Jake?
Them or Atlanta? Atlanta.
Probably the Colts, because I got a really good friend that's a Colts fan, and I've got a couple of family members that live in Indy, so probably the Colts. And usually, like, if the Colts beat another team or something, I'll message my buddy and say, hey, man, your Colts did a good job, and I was rooting for them, blah, blah, blah. Which, of course, when Cleveland plays on week 7, I will definitely be rooting for my Browns. But
yeah, me as well. Mac, what about you?
So I would either go one or two teams. There was a period in my life where I rooted heavily for the Patriots because they were the only team that could beat the Steelers in the playoffs. And it was it was one of those things where, like, I could not stand watching Ben Roethlisberger win, and the only guy that could beat him was Tom Terrific,
Tom
right?
Brady. Yeah.
The other team that I would say possibly, now I realize as I've grown older how foolish I was as a kid, but one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up was Brett Favre. Now that was before I learned about how much of an idiot that he is off the field. And the fact that he couldn't read coverages, but I loved watching him play. But yeah, I more than likely I'd probably say a Patriots fan, just because again I hated watching the Steelers win, and it's growing up in the Youngstown area. Again, I mean, a lot of my friends were Steelers fans. I had cousins
I have
that were
neighbors.
Steelers
My
fans.
next door neighbor across the street's a Steelers fan. 2 houses down the left's a Steelers fan. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Youngstown is practically Diet Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Right. So
way more Steelers fans here than Browns fans.
Yeah. It's a
cool,
tough pill to swallow for years.
Yeah, but that's a great way to end the episode. We will be back sometime next week. We will not be live on Monday because the Browns play Monday.
Yeah,
and we'll be hyped for that game, for the big dub that the Browns are going to lay on Pittsburgh in whatever it's called now. The
Acrisure.
something like that.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Something like that.
It don't matter.
Yeah.
It's
How
the
do you
new.
get rid of Heinz Field for $300,000? That's so ridiculous.
Twitter,
That's funny.
Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Follow
What?
us.
Oh.
Subscribe.
It helps. It helps. Thank you. Yeah, do
You
that.
just, Facebook. I was like, what are you doing? I was okay. Anyway,
Emphasis.
yeah,
Emphasis.
but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back next week. Hopefully, we are talking about a big dub. But go ahead, Mac, take it over.
Well, one last thing. Did it last week. We got to do it this week. Hey, look at me. Ready? Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. All right.
Hey,
Hold on.
last
We
week's
gotta-
was good
we
enough
gotta-
too.
Hold on. We'll get him to
He's
do
gonna get a
this.
treat real quick.
Yeah.
Come on, Buff. You can do it, Buff.
Come on, buddy. What do you say?
He's there.
There you go. Good boy.
We'll take 2 barks.
We'll take
Yeah.
it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
Thanks again, everybody tuning in. We love you. Go Browns, baby.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Browns.
Birds up!